We're back doing movie reviews on the Screen Team on KWOC, being joined by the good friend of our show, Michael Bowling. And Michael, we're talking about one of the hottest new movies out right now. This one's called Spiderman Homecoming. And before we get into the review, I'm curious, with all the Spider-Man movies that have come out, did you get Spider-Man fatigue before this movie came out?
No, I don't think so. Spider-Man is one of those characters I really, really like, so I don't mind all the movies. And also, I kind of understand why they redid this one for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so that helped a bit, too.
Yeah, it helps that Spider-Man's actually being included in the cinematic universe. So, he's included with Iron Man. He's included with, Captain America and folks like that. So that's really neat that one of the most famous Marvel characters is finally being included with the rest of the movie timeline. So Homecoming, it came out a few weeks ago. What were your thoughts on the film?
Well, I can tell you I've seen it twice already, and I absolutely love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of the year so far, and it's one of my favorite Spider-Man movies ever.
Yeah, Michael, I agree 100% with you. I got a chance to see it a few days ago. It's by far my favorite Spider-Man movie. I think Tom Holland is by far my favorite Spider-Man. I mean, he just has that Peter Parker persona. He's not a 25-year-old trying to play a high schooler. It's actually
exactly.
It's actually
I got nothing against Tobey Maguire, but I think with the Spider-Man actors, I think it's kind of like with the Batman actors. You're either a good Bruce Wayne and an okay Batman, or a great Batman and a so-so Bruce Wayne. It's the same thing with Peter Parker. Most actors are either a really good Spider-Man or a really good Peter Parker. And I think Tom Holland was great at both, which is why I think he's just one of the reasons why I think he's the best actor to take up the mantle so far.
Yeah, I agree with 100% with what you said, man. So what's Spider-Man's deal? We kind of meet Spider-Man kind of after the events of Captain America Civil War. And what are some of the struggles that Peter Parker's going through in this film?
Well, first thing I want to mention is if you're afraid of slogging through like half an hour of him getting bit by a spider and of Uncle Ben dying, you don't have to worry about that. It doesn't deal with any of that. It only mentions how he got his powers literally once in this entire movie. So it's not an origin story in that respect. And I think that was a good move because we've already seen it twice in the last 15 years. But it's still... This movie does a really good job at hammering the fact that Peter's just a kid. He's just a 15-year-old, so he's still going to high school. He's struggling. He's got girl problems. He's got all these teenage problems that most of us have dealt with at some point or another. Just with the added fact that he's a kid who can, in his own words, stop a bus with his bare hands. So it's a really interesting coming-of-age story that's also coupled with a superhero movie, and it all blends and flows really, really well.
And, of course, it wouldn't be a good superhero film without a great supervillain. And we've got Michael Keaton to do the honors. He plays Vulture. What did you think about his performance?
Okay, Vulture is by far one of the best villains the MCU has given us so far. Now, that's not saying much since most of the villains in this universe aren't the greatest, but Vulture, Michael Keaton's performance and the way they wrote Vulture is fantastic. His origin in this movie is different from what it was in the comics a bit, but it worked really, really well with the universe. And Vulture's motivation, the movie paints him as not an evil supervillain wanting to take over the world. He's just a guy wanting to do what he can and take care of his family. And honestly, that's what makes him terrifying, because as a father, you yourself, Chris, you'll do a lot to take care of your family. And so that's what makes Vulture so scary, is the fact that he's such a realistic and really, what am I trying to think of, really easy to get to know character.
Now, we've got Vulture. He's the bad guy. We've got Spider-Man. He's the good guy. We also have a mentor in this film, and it's a mentor that we all know, we all recognize, and that's Tony Stark, Iron Man, played by Robert Downey Jr. And he obviously is trying to give guidance to Spider-Man, but Peter Parker thinks that he's kind of holding him down. Is that right?
Yeah, basically. Peter thinks that he can do a lot more with his powers, and he thinks that Tony is keeping him from being able to do all these great things with the Avengers. Obviously, as a kid versus the adult, Peter thinks he knows better, but Tony, in the end, he knows what's best. So it's like he's like a father figure type role that I think fit really well with this movie.
Did you have any favorite scenes from the film, Mike?
Oh goodness, definitely all the parts where I preferred all the Spider-Man parts versus the Peter Parker parts. But that's just because superhero action. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Not saying the rest of the movie wasn't good, but just and definitely all the scenes that included Vulture, because Vulture, his character design is just really, really interesting to look at, and also his character is great. So definitely all the scenes with Spider-Man where Spider-Man and Vulture were in the same scene. There are also a couple Easter eggs and bonus characters kind of thrown in at different places that keen-eyed Spider-Man fans will be like, "Oh my gosh, look, they did that." Those are really neat as well.
One of my favorite scenes in the film, and I don't think I'm giving anything away because these scenes were in a trailer, but in case you do think that this might be a spoiler, just keep that in mind. I'm throwing a spoiler out there, but one of my favorite scenes was in the very beginning of the movie, where you see Spider-Man or Peter Parker's perspective from the events of Civil War. He's he's doing this mockumentary, video diary of him, going to Berlin and him fighting Captain America and him going home from those fights. I thought that was hilarious and just kind of ingenious and really something that a 15-year-old would do in those situations.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was a really, really ingenious way to recap the events of Civil War, which was Spider-Man's first appearance in the MCU, from the perspective of this 15-year-old high school nerd. So I thought that was ingenious and very, very well done, yes.
Yeah, the whole movie was really, really well done. Kudos to both Sony and Marvel for coming together and putting this, icon back on the right track, man. So I give kudos to everybody involved in this film. It's really a great summer blockbuster.
It definitely is, yes. Go see it now.
All right, you heard Michael. He says go see it now and go see it twice for sure. The movie's called Spider-Man Homecoming, and you can find it in a theater near you. Mike, dude, I appreciate you coming in, letting us know your thoughts on these comic book movies, and we need to have you on again really soon, brother.
Chris, it's a pleasure as always. I appreciate it.
All right, the man is Michael Bowling. I'm Chris. We are part of the Screen Team. You can check us out at ScreenTeamPB.com, and, of course, we're all over social media. We'll see you next Saturday on the Screen Team, and remember, we want you to know before you go.